Her husband is deployed right now in Afghanistan.
Why didn't this Army wife bid her husband goodbye?
Searching her boyfriend's home.
Boyfriend.
They have done extensive searching.
For 3 weeks, the family did not hear from Bethany, even though her mother, Kimberly Nelson, takes care of her and Emil's 17-month-old son, Kai.
She wasn't necessarily in contact with me every day.
Bethany sort of had transient communications with various people in her family. It wasn't unusual for Bethany to go off the grid for a little bit.
She was missing for 3 weeks. Family didn't call the police earlier.
There's some tensions going on. They didn't want to talk about the boyfriend.
Never imagined that today I'd be here. She wasn't necessarily in contact with me every day, but usually with her siblings or via Facebook. It's a wonderful way to keep in touch. You know, we could see what was going on. That's when school was starting and other things were going on too, so I can understand she'd be busy with getting into a new routine.
Okay, here's the big question right now. Straight back to you, Rupa Mikulaneni. Who's the boyfriend?
Nancy, the boyfriend is, we actually don't know how long they were exactly dating. We do know that they lived together for a couple of months at least before he moved out in February. This is all we know really, Nancy.
Are they not releasing information about his name?
I think we do have his name. I actually...
Ronald Roldan?
Yes.
Okay, but there's a lot of Ronald Roldans according to our searches, so we don't know which one it is. But in the search warrant, which is not secret, Rupa, you're not really letting a cat out of the bag.
Okay.
I can read it, okay? Ronald Roldan, it's right here. But we don't know which Ronald Roldan it is. So we can't verify, did they work together? Where did they meet? Nothing like that. We just know the name Ronald Roldan, correct?
Correct, and we also know that the place that he's residing, where the search warrants were executed and were being searched for evidence of murder, is his mother's home, Nancy. That's what we do know.
Unleash the lawyers. Gloria Allred, victims' rights attorney, child advocate, L.A. Patrick McLean, military judge, former federal prosecutor, Hawaii. Peter Ellikin, defense attorney, author of Super Predators, Boston. Alex Sanchez, defense attorney, New York. Okay, out to you, Sanchez. Looks like the boyfriend better lawyer up.
You know,
They're searching his home and his mother's house.
You know, the boyfriend, it probably would be in his interest to hire an attorney, but I think the police at this point are entertaining the possibility that this woman's alive and she's communicating on Facebook. And that should be very easy to verify by examining the text and examining the friends.
It sounds more like they think that someone's posing as her being alive on Facebook, Gloria.
Well, absolutely, and they're going to be investigating that as well.
Where is Bethany?
Does anybody know where my daughter is?
She hasn't been seen since January 29th.
She's 5 months pregnant. Where is Bethany?
Does anybody know where my daughter is?
Cops have searched the home of the last person to see Bethany before she disappears.
This was a boyfriend, and this was the father of her unborn child. In this search warrant, it alleges that the boyfriend made conflicting statements to police about when it was that he first noticed that Bethany's car was parked outside her apartment.
I don't like conflicting statements, period.
5 months pregnant and lives on her own in Ashford.
Inside the apartment, as far as reports are telling us, there was nothing at all to indicate that she had planned to leave, that there was a struggle, that anything was out of place.
Nothing says foul play louder than no cell phone activity and no debit card activity.
In bank records, credit cards, her cell phone, there's been no activity since January 29th.
It's so hard not knowing anything and not being able to reach her.
So foul play has happened here.
What role does this boyfriend have in all of this?
21-year-old Bethany Decker, who's a senior at George Mason University and is about 5 months pregnant. She hasn't been seen since January 29th. That's when she was in Columbia, Maryland with her
We are taking your calls out to Connie in Connecticut. Hi, Connie. I think I've got Connie on the line. Connie, are you there? Let's try Michelle in Indiana. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Hi, dear. What's your question?
Yes, I got a comment. You are the best when it comes to looking, finding people and helping people out. And I love your show. And I am making a blanket for you. And
Thank you.
I've got a question. Is NCIS and FBI in on this?
Good question. And Michelle, I want to thank you for the blanket because I use those. Not only do I use them with the twins, but also I put it around their crib in case they hit it in the night with their head. I don't want them to hit that hard wood. Okay, NCIC, are you asking is the FBI in on it, Michelle? Was that what you wanted to know? Do I have Michelle?
Good question.
Michelle, did you want to know if the FBI is involved on this?
Yes, and
okay.
NCIS.
Okay, what about it, Alexis?
Police did not return our calls today. We have been asking, so we don't know at this point if the FBI has been involved.
To Kim in Florida. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Nancy. Kudos to you and all of your accomplishments, and as they say in Manhattan, kudos. But here's my comment.
Okay.
The Facebook, as you all know, on these 4G phones, all kinds of apps, and it doesn't matter, in my opinion, so I don't even own a cell phone, but in my opinion, whether he's in Afghanistan or in Atlanta, Georgia, or LA, or, any other city or country, I'm assuming that they could get on Facebook and fake this woman's account.
You're absolutely right. I was just thinking, Kim, that being deployed in Afghanistan, he would have other things to do other than go online and pretend to be his wife back home. But you're right about you can get online over there just as easy as you can over here. Back to the lawyers. Gloria Allred, Patrick McLean, Hawaii, Peter Ellikin, Boston, Alex Sanchez, New York. What about it, Ellikin?
Yeah, I guess so. I was just thinking, though, that it's probably harder to get on Facebook there in Afghanistan just because you're probably so incredibly busy and so scheduled to be sort of chatting with friends, etc. It's harder, but it's not impossible. So I agree with what the viewer says. I think either person could get on Facebook, and I think it's going to be the kind of thing that's easy to trace. I think this is really going to be very helpful clue to us.
Back to Patrick McLean, former military judge, former prosecutor, joining us out of Hawaii. Patrick, here's my question. If the husband was a legitimate suspect, and he has not been named a suspect, okay, don't you believe that the military would have already sent him home?
They may have. There may be logistics problems in it, but I got to tell you, a lot of what you've been covering causes me to doubt that he truly is a suspect. Back to your several questions you've had about him getting on Facebook. It's not a matter of whether or not he has more things to do. It's his commanders have more things for him to do. They're not going to give him the kind of time to sit around and monkey around with his Facebook account, much less hers. It is true that the troops over there, on some morale time, can get into an internet cafe in some dusty tent somewhere to communicate back home for morale reasons. But there is no way that this National Guardsman is going to be able to pull off a big fraud like this. Most likely, if this is indeed a fraud, and this is not Bethany doing it, it is somebody back in the States who has access to her username and password and is, for whatever reason, pretending to be Bethany.
Good point. I want to go back to these two search warrants I've got here. Rupa, outline the search warrants for me. What do we learn from them other than in attachment A, where they're trying to get her bank records? We learn her family believes that she is in danger, that the joint account she had no activity since she's been gone. She had a check of over $1,000 waiting to be picked up. Nobody picked it up. Also, we learned that she was in an intimate relationship with Ronald Roldan, living together for 2 months at the time she goes missing. That's what I've learned from this search warrant. This search warrant, it says murder, and it's served on the Bank of America for Bethany Ann Decker. That's what I learned in that warrant. What about the other warrant?
Oh, right. Well, I think the most important one here that we're looking at is the first warrant, which talks about the search of the home, where the boyfriend was living with the mother after he moved out. And it's very detailed, Nancy. It talks about seeking photos of Bethany, fingerprints, biological stains, fluids, trace evidence, records, receipts, weapons. notes, controlled substances, all evidence pointing to a possible murder. And then, of course, the key is that this executed search warrant is actually called a search warrant released under suspicion of first and second degree murder.
Well, one of the reasons they initially became suspicious of him, out to you, Alex Sanchez, is they state that the boyfriend, Ronald Roldan, gives inconsistent statements as to, now that piqued my interest, but then when I read what the inconsistent statement was, not so much. Made conflicting statements regarding when he noticed her car parked in the parking lot they shared together.
Yeah, you know, and that's a red flag. And the police are looking for red flags. They're looking for inconsistencies. Because why should he be giving any inconsistencies? Anybody could make a mistake.
But that's not that big of an inconsistency.
Yeah, but if it's an inconsistency that's central to the issue in the case, it's big. And in this case, it's a big inconsistency. If it's central,
you're right. You're right. But when he first noticed her car was sitting there, I could build a case on that. But if that is key to the case and it sets off a timeline, I would be much more disturbed about it. Out to the lines, Tracy in Michigan. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Nancy. I have a quick question.
Okay.
The first one, Bethany went missing around January 29th.
Yes.
And her husband deployed on February 2nd. Were they not together in that brief time frame?
Okay, that's a good question. What about it, Alexis? What do we know?
Last time the husband saw her was in the morning of January 29th. It's the boyfriend, the last person to see her, known by police, known to be alive, is the afternoon of January 29th.
We also have information the husband is estranged, but yet they had just come back from a Hawaiian vacation together. To Paula Bloom, clinical psychologist, you can find her at paulabloom.com. Weigh in, Paula, on your thoughts. She's on a Hawaiian vacation with the husband, 5 months pregnant. Well, at that time, more like 2 or 3 months pregnant with the boyfriend's child.
What I don't understand, Nancy, is how can the family say, we didn't realize there were any marital problems, when they're the ones who say, oh yeah, the baby's the boyfriend's, oh yeah, the guy's living with her. I mean, how can you say there's no marital problems when there's an extramarital affair? I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I also don't get how cops can say we don't suspect foul play while they're issuing search warrants concerning a possible murder. We are talking about a 21-year-old co-ed. She's a college student. She's pregnant, 5 months pregnant, and she's missing. Out to the lines, Dee in Florida. Hi, Dee.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, dear. What's your question?
My question is, Nancy, after she left him and he possibly was upset because of the pregnancy, do you think that possibly she may have went to a shelter and she's hiding out because she fears him?
I think that everything is possible. Mike Brooks, do you think it's probable?
Probable not, because I'm sure Loudoun County law enforcement, as well as Fairfax County, where the house was, where the search warrant was served, they've checked the local shelters and hospitals. That's one of the first things they would do.
Mike Brooks, what do you make of these search warrants?
I mean, it's interesting, but I know they did get the boyfriend's Mac notebook computer, which they can find out if he logged on to her Facebook account with her password, as well as his HTC Android phone. So they're going to take a look at that, and also they were looking for trace evidence and of other biological and stains in the house that are visible and not visible, which says to me they probably used luminol and went over that house with a fine-tooth comb, Nancy.
Her mother, Kim Nelson, says Bethany was with her husband, Emil, on leave from his Army National Guard deployment to Afghanistan. Emil went back overseas February 2nd. Kim cares for Bethany and Emil's 17-month-old son while Emil was deployed and Bethany was in school full-time, close to graduating from George Mason University.
Morning, everyone. What's on our